Hey, American Keach. I'm here with Karen O'Donnell. And Karen is a very special member who's been working with Julianne for the time we're talking, 3.5 years or so. And there's been a lot of things that Julianne has helped Karen go through and make some shifts in her life. And we're here to talk about that today. But not only that, we're to talk about the experience and what it's like actually to work with Julianne. So, Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your story with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
so let's kind of step back a little bit and talk about where you were in your life before you started working with Julianne and kind of what it was at that point that led you to working with her.
Great, thanks, Eric. At that point in my life, I knew there was something more. There was something more than I wanted to do than my day job, and I just didn't really know how to outline out how a creative side was bubbling up in me that I didn't know that I had. And I just coincidentally listened to a call that was hosted by our mutual friend Eva Gregory, where she was interviewing Julianne, and I was in the back doing some other stuff in the office, and there are a few things that she said that started to resonate with me. And I thought, well, I think I need to check her out. I think this would be worth having. She had an offering to do a free discovery call, just to get to meet each other. So I went ahead and logged in on that just to see where this might go.
What was it that was resonating with you on the point? Because obviously, right, you had your day job and you said a creative side of things, but there's something there that's, you know what, there's something I need to check out. Do you know what that feeling was or something that was going on inside?
I almost was going to listen to that call because I saved that call to go back to where it was. But it was the reminder of when you focus on the vision. She gave examples of Oprah and Arnold Schwarzenegger and other people that have really done great things. But a lot of what they did was they got clear on a vision and then stayed focused on that vision instead of staying in the what isness or the what isness and what are the how-to steps and where I am right now. It's just like, yeah, that's vision. And then sort of let that vision pull you. And for me, what was happening more and more was the path to follow was coming to me rather than I was in a big arena with a big motivational guy, peak performance guy for many, many years. And it was all about make it happen, force it happen, make your life a masterpiece, things like that. And all that forcing, chasing, pushing was just adding more frustration. So with this, it's like, whoa, get that vision there. And guess what? It's going to pull you. And then that's what was starting to happen. Path that was coming to me was starting to light up, and it was easier and it was more fun.
Yeah.
And I think that was it for her to remind me, continually had to remind me, because the old habit of I got to force it, I got to make it, I have to do income generating activities, I have to I have to have action was like, whew, let's tone in on the vision and see what inspired action shows up.
Did you have a clear path at that point of what the vision was?
Absolutely not. Wasn't even on my radar.
Okay, so then that was really the thing inside of you that, like, you knew there was something there, but
Right.
you weren't sure what it was. And you tried other things. You were trying to force it to happen, force it to come out. And then Julianne basically said, hey, listen, let's just let it happen.
Right. And she would ask key questions and find out where the joy was. Oh, you light up when this happens, or this joy. And this is like, and then there were rendezvous of have an idea. An idea would pop, and the next day meet somebody who was key in that arena. It's like, And then it wasn't, I would have to get this right out, because for me, as an analytical, at least trained analytical through dental school, and everything is linear, this way, this way, this way. It was not a linear path at all. It wasn't even a straight arc like she shows. It was kind of like a this, and sometimes it's a step over there and a step over there. It was like the yellow brick road wasn't straight, but it was like it was lit up. And then this one over here lit up, and then that one back there lit up.
Right.
And it all contributed to the arc.
And so in this process, we'll talk about exactly in a second, like what it was that she helped you really kind of discover and find out about this process. But I'm curious to know what it's actually like. You're talking about a little bit in working with her. Like what's the experience like in working with her?
Well, the experience was wonderful. Is wonderful. What I find about Julianne is she's 110% present, and she's honed in listening very, very listening. She's not into her own head. She's not into her own stuff. She's not into whatever's going on into her life. When the time for our call would come up, it was 100% about me and listening with her heart, mind, and soul. So sometimes I have a tendency to ramble. I'm a storyteller. I talk for a living. I talk to my patients for a living. And then in that rambling, things would light up for her that she'd capture and save, and then come back with key questions to get me to go deeper. And another key question to get me to go deeper. And then another key question to sort of get me out of the way and let it flow. And then in her brilliance, she would capture that and then just show it back to me. Show it back to me pretty much graphically or in a picture, which was very, very new to me. Wasn't a linear thing. Wasn't a, here's your outline. You have to do A, B, C, D, and then you do this first, and then you do this, that. It was nothing like that. It was like, whew, what does this rainbow look like to you? It's like, I think. And then the steps would come backwards from, would come from that. So the key things in the long story is that she's a profound listener, in the moment listener, and not just with her ears, but with her whole essence, her soul, her heart.
And so since she's been able to, I guess, connect with you on that type of level, what was the big thing that, right, you said you didn't know what the vision was. What was the vision that she helped you find?
Well, then she asked me a question. I was thinking about a storytelling show. Storytelling caught my attention, lit up, and I went to a storytelling show in Chicago. If you Google storytelling Chicago, there's like 50 shows a month, and they're all within a 2-mile radius of what we call Wrigleyville, which is an hour from where I live. And I would go once. I'm single. I don't have kids, so I would go to these shows once a week, and I started being in shows once a month. But I'd come back home, and my folks would, where are you going? We never heard about storytelling. There's no storytelling out here in the suburbs. What are you really doing? And then I was in a show that was only about 25 minutes away, easy access, and I had 27 guests come out. So an idea popped. I was like, well, maybe I should try a show in my neighborhood. Just see if anybody shows up. Just see. So with that idea of going to these other shows and doing some research of the good, bad, and the ugly, what I liked, what I didn't like, what would work with me, what wouldn't work with me, the people that I would be serving. One key question that always stands out in my mind is like, Karen, how will you know if it's successful? And poof, well, the room is packed, it's full. I turn on my light and I start to see the lights come up in other people. And lo and behold, the first night was like that.
Wow. So she helped you really understand and see that on the storytelling side of things was just a very key part of what you were meant to do and what you wanted to do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Was there another element? Because I know on storytellers, a lot of times that's something that I know personally, they've always been really good at that. They just may not have seen that. So in your day-to-day work with a dentist, is the kind of thing where you found yourself actually doing that while you're in your day-to-day job?
Well, absolutely. I thought it was really rude of these dentists that would ask questions while hands are in their mouth. Because even the dentist I've gone to, it's like, well, that's not fair because nobody can answer. So I developed that craft, not even realizing it, as I'd let people tell me a little bit about themselves for 3 to 5 minutes. And once the chair's back and my hands are in their mouth, well, it's showtime. It ended up helping put them at ease, making them laugh, not realizing I was working on them, and then not being rude and having them think they had to answer a question. So most of the time, people, when they leave, they just feel totally loved and they feel like they've had a good time and they've had a laugh here. So it comes natural for me.
And you that's not something you had really noticed before? Like
no, not really. Okay. Not really paid attention. But what did come up on the radar, maybe the year before I met Julianne, was at January of that year. I had 2 female patients. One I met for my Zumba class. One I met for my choir. And I'd been doing Zumba for a long time, and this woman she's like, oh my gosh, you're a dentist. And she covered her mouth and said, I'm terrified of dentists. And that's such a strong word. And I'm like, how could you be terrified of me? We've been dancing all these months. And then she went like this and showed me something. What do you think about that? And it's like, you better get in or you're going to lose your tooth. Same with choir. Same week, a woman's like, oh my God, you're a dentist? I'm like, Dorothy, we've been sitting next to each other for months singing. I'm the same person. That's just my job. And she's like, I'm terrified of dentists, was the word that she used. That's a strong word. So when they came in, different times, of course, for their individual appointments, as I was working on them, I'm like, I just can't take it anymore. I'm threshold with that. How could people be terrified of me if they've never even met me? How could they? So as I made a declaration, that I'm never introducing myself as a dentist anymore. From now on, I'm going to introduce myself as a storyteller. And it was like that went out to the universe, and they're both like, oh, that's what you do. You tell stories. As a matter of fact, one of them was a little tense. Her shoulder kept coming up. And when I said, are you okay? You feeling this? And I'm like, ugh. I wasn't telling her a story. I was so focused on the dentistry, I wasn't telling her a story. I started telling her a story, and she fell asleep. So I'm not sure. I can look back in my notes on the timeline of that to see when it really happened. But with that, it really was like a declaration went out, and then 2 days later, a friend called me and said, "Hey, storyteller, have you listened? There's a radio interview from this Kogan guy, who's a big interview in Chicago, interviewing a guy that has been doing storytelling shows in Chicago." So it was like, boom, things started to line up. And then Julianne was right in the middle of that mix too, to help me to notice what was already coming towards me.
Yeah. And it sounds like too, to be able to do that, the environment that you create, especially, like people are terrified of the dental side of things, but it sounds like you created an environment, not just there, but in the storytelling side of things and with what you're doing, that was just something comforting, that you were really good at creating that type of environment.
Right. Comfort, that they're important, that they matter. And one of my roles is like, I tell people that I have a relationship-centered business, but it's also a love-centered business. And when the success, one of the times I explained to Julianne what a great night it was just one phrase. It's like all the love was there. People just totally feel loved on their way out. You can feel it. We'll come in, it's like, what is this? Who is that? Who's the stranger sitting next to me? But at the end of the night, we're all one. It's all community and fun. And expanded hearts.
And so once you got clear, Julianne helped you really see this. You started, I guess, the phrase owning your genius, right? And you started to map things out with her. How quickly did you start seeing the results and the shift and everything on the storytelling side of things?
Pretty immediately. There were things that popped up like right away. The decision, first of all, the clarity, then deciding, and then noticing synchronicities with people that I met along the way that were just like boom, boom. And then since I'd been going to shows for about a year, and it's my nature to serve when I go. If I got there early, I'd help set up chairs, or I'd greet people, or something I would do that I made relationships along the way, and they all wanted to help out. So with that, with Julianne's help, and there were obstacles that came up, and walls to climb, but the focus because even the first venue I was going to have it in a couple weeks before, I was just about to post on Facebook, save the date, and I went and ate lunch over there, and they said, "Oh, we can't do it." And I'm like, "What? No, we can't do it. We don't have a door in the room. It's a family restaurant. You're going to have an adult show." And I said, "Well, adult content, adult language, it's going to be a clean show. No, we can't do it." But instead of me getting miffed, it was like, okay, I'm so glad I didn't post it on Facebook yet, because I would have had to retract that. Right, and it's like, okay, but I went to sleep that night. When I woke up in the morning, I was still keyed in on the vision. Storytelling is coming to Homewood. The show must go on. So it started unraveling, where's the next venue I can go to? And a patient came in that knows a common contact. And so, what do you think about Jimmy's place? What do you think? Well, I'd give him a call. And so I went over there to see him, and he's usually not at that restaurant. He just happened to be there that day and said, "Come on in." And I'm like, we've never formally met. He goes, "Yeah, but you're the dentist." And I sat with him. I said, "I need your help. I want to bring storytelling to Homewood, and I need a room." And he goes, "That's what it's for. It's a community room." And I'm like, "I don't know who's coming. I don't know what they'll buy. I don't know if they'll buy any food or not. It's a community room." So it was like the synchronicities, the divine timing.
Doors are open.
Yeah. By going back to the vision. I could have stayed in my little oh, nobody wants me to do this. I can't do this. But she helped me to go back to that vision.
Yeah. And then what have you seen, I guess, and now it's been a couple of years, right? How many of these have you done, and what types of people are you selling out? What are you seeing in that side of things?
Well, the first show, which I didn't know who was going to come, and we had another obstacle come up that week into the Chicago area. It was called Polar Vortex. We had 4 feet of snow on the ground. And that day, 24 inches of snow was flying in northwest Indiana, which you can see from my office. You could see the storm clouds, but it didn't hit Homewood. And on that night, 45 people came out, and only 5 had ever been to a show before. Had no idea. You guys know what's going to happen tonight? No, no. So the power of personal invitation and trust and relationships. So the first show was 45. The next, and I didn't have the second show planned. I just had an inaugural show, and the people in the audience said, "Well, when's the next show?" And I knew the third Tuesday of the month of the next month, so I threw out that date. Who's going to be in it? Well, I don't know. Sign up for the email list. I had no idea how to do an email mail list. And then people even asked, when are you going to do your workshop? So the second show, we had 40 new people that hadn't been before. By the third show, only had 3 seats left open, and then it was full house ever since. And by the end of the first year, I had a waiting list of people to get in.
Wow.
So now I'm in the 36 plus 7 is, what is that? 42? 42 monthly shows. This year for our third anniversary, the restaurant I was in before was doing some remodeling. And I woke up again and I thought, well, it's January. We could have the day off. But no, it was the third anniversary show. The show must go on. So I ended up moving it across the street to a country club, and it was sold out. It was more room than we could, we were only supposed to, I put 80 in a room that holds 60. We had 115 come out for that third anniversary show. And then I made a decision this was free with a free will offering at the end. As I was telling a story that second month, February, I heard a strong voice that's saying, we're doing something really special here. Watching the people lean in and listen, watching them tear up, laugh, cry, a human experience.
Yeah,
the third
definitely.
show, the decision was, it's time. It's time. That's the voice I heard too. It's time to charge a fee. Which, come think of it, Julianne wanted me to do that a long time ago, but I went by the feeling of how it felt. So that's a long story to say it was successful from day one.
Okay. And now you started charging a fee. So you're still a dentist, you still have your day job, but additional streams of income now because of this.
Right.
Okay. And then is it like you have paid story shops, paid programs, or you will have like multiple offers for people now?
Right. That's what I'm learning to develop a little bit more. Yes, I do have like a 3-hour story shop, a 4-week class, and then with that, we'll discover what other products and things to come from that. But what I've learned from all this, if I build it, they will come. The trust and rapport is there, and so I don't have a name on what you could call me as far as coach, storyteller, speaker. This is a definite bracket that it falls in, but just trust the process and the people will come. And actually, when I doubled the fee for the story shop, more people came.
So how does, it's been a few years of doing this now. You've gotten very clear. You understand what your genius is. How does all this make you feel knowing that you're able to do and live your genius now?
Well, on top of the world, and especially show night, which is why I couldn't talk to you last week. There was too much going on. I didn't realize I was a producer. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was an organizer. I didn't know that I could command staff around me at these restaurants. Volunteers just showed up, all that sort of stuff. It's like everything I've ever trained for. I think that's everything I've ever trained for, my whole personal development of these 20, 30 years that I've been on that path, comes together with this. So, but also, Eric, it really feels like it's just the beginning. It feels like it's just the beginning, just like the tip of the iceberg of more to come.
Do you feel, I guess, more fulfilled, happier now doing this than what you were before?
There's much more joy. One of the best compliments at the end of the show, I always run up to the door, just like my priest does at the end of the church, and thank everybody for coming. I don't want to miss anybody on their way out. I want to make sure that they're all leaving uplifted and that they know they're important and they've gotten touched. But the recurring theme was 2 things. You sound like Ellen DeGeneres, but it's like, you look like you're having the time of your life, is what most people said. So that expression and that feeling from me that I'm just having a blast up here, the time of the life, is kind of giving them permission to let's go ahead and have fun. Yeah. So yes, more joy, my cheeks are higher in my face when I smile and light up about it. And I just walked into the restaurant where we don't have the show anymore. Started an open mic though last night, and I'm like, oh, Homewood Stories, look who's here. And I guess. Yeah. I never thought of myself as a celebrity, but I do have celebrity status in town now, but I don't think of myself as a celebrity, but when I walk in there, I don't have to pay for my meals anymore.
That's always a good thing, right? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, right, when you started working with Julianne, right, you were looking for help bring this out and find this element, but did you ever expect it to get to where it's at? Like, did you ever think it would be where it's at today?
No, no. And like I say, the first show was, oh, somebody came up to me at the end and said, as I was cleaning up, and they said, "Did you ever?" I was a dish rag. I was really tired after that because there was more work involved than I was used to. And a guy said, "Did you ever expect your first show would be so successful?" And I'm like, was this successful? And I only had a short walk home, like a 5-minute walk home. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the only way I ever saw it, was the room was full and people were happy. That's all I ever saw it, thanks to Julianne asking me what the vision was and honing in on the vision. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I expected that, and I did expect big crowds, but not, being at the country club where we are now and stuff like that. So
Would you go as far as to say that this has been a life-changing experience working with Julianne?
yes, absolutely. And not just for me, Eric. It's known out there that if you're in the Homewood Stories show, then it opens up doors for people to be on other shows. That I've kind of raised the bar. I have rules on the show. It's going to be a clean show. It's like no profanity. What happens in the bedroom and bathroom is private. It's not on the stage. Doesn't move the story forward. That's not the kind of show I have. And so if people are in my show, but I'll have to say my 89-year-old dad was in my show a year ago, January 2016, and even last week he was describing his experience being in my show, and he went to my workshop. Was like, he said that made my day, and then he goes, no. That made my life.
Wow.
So it's not just life-changing for me, but it's been life-changing for the people who touch it.
That's amazing.
Or are touched by it.
That's absolutely amazing. And I think what I want to do is I just want to shift gears and start wrapping up, because, I mean, we could spend hours talking about it. I'm fascinated by this whole process. But let's say, well, let me do this. I want to talk a little bit back about Julianne, right? You talked a little bit about the experience of what it was like working with her, but I'm also curious to know, the type of person that she is. So give me a few words or phrases that describe the type of person that she is.
She's an elevated listener. What I mean by that is when she listens, it's not just with ears or not just active listening, not just paraphrasing and repeating back to you, but she has a very open heart. Her heart and soul is open when she listens, and listens very closely to be able to mirror back. Genuine and authentic are somewhat overused, but it's just, you really feel Julianne's heart. You totally feel her heart. And I totally knew that she was only interested in my best interest, that when it was call time, it was all about me. It was 110% focus on me. I'm not going to hear about what's going on in her week or what's going on or her knee hurts or this or that. Occasionally I would ask her stuff, but she wouldn't even go there. She's like, no, we only got so much time on the clock right now. Let's focus. Let's hone in and focus. And I think that's definitely a gift. And then with her heightened listening, as I could tend to babble, she would feel some of the key points. And next thing you know, she's got a graphic on there of what we just talked about. And I'm like, how did you do that so fast? So that's in her genius,
Yeah. Sounds like she cares.
Definitely, without a doubt, she cares.
Okay. And let's say someone, and it's a very similar position where you were 3+ years ago, right? They've got this vision. There's something inside. They know they're meant to do something. They're looking for somebody to help them, and they hear our story, or they know about Julianne, and they're thinking about working with her, but they're still 50-50. Like, they're on the fence. Right. What would you want to tell that person?
Well, I was there. I was 50-50. I wasn't sure. It's like, oh, can I write another check out? Can I, put this on my credit card or whatever? And then there's this came up for me. If not now, when? When's the life supposed to be? Life is now. It's time to do that. And Julianne leaves outs. It's like, okay, it's going to be a certain amount of time package, 6-month package, let's say, or something like that. And if you don't feel momentum by those 6 months, definitely we'll part ways. But she's almost going to guarantee, and without really a guarantee, it's like you're going to feel some momentum within the first call. I have to admit this sometimes. I had to plan the calls So after our call, my schedule was somewhat open because sometimes I would just have to go meditate and absorb it or take a walk or take a break because to me the energy was really swirling, the vibration raising and swirling on those calls. So I would say just go for it, give it a chance. Ask what your outs are because she does leave outs for you.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I ended up continually renewing my 6 months package. So what does that tell you?
Says a lot. Says a lot. And then I guess what I'll do is I'll leave on the last question and I'll go just one step deeper on this one, since it's been a really great experience from what you're telling me. It's been life-changing, not just for you, right, but family, for others. Right. Let's say that Julianne decides that she's shutting everything down, shutting down her program, her business, turning off her phone, email, Facebook, and this is the last time that you could ever say anything to her. Knowing it's the last time, what would you want to say?
Oh, first of all, get out of my way. I have to make a call. I got to go there. I would want to let Julianne know how much I love and appreciate and respect her, and that I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for her uncracking my genius and not to turn off her phone. The world needs her. The world needs her gifts and her genius. And there's a lot of other people that need the code cracked for them too. So
very cool. Well, Karen,
You
thank
made me
you so
cry,
much.
Eric.
Thank
You
you
made me
so
cry.
much for coming on and sharing your story and experience. And I can feel that passion. I can feel the flow that you have now. And I just want you to continue doing what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
All right, Eric. Thanks so much.
All
Give
right.
my love to Julianne.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.